I could not be more honored or excited to invite you to welcome to the stage from the world champion Golden State Warriors, the pride of Oakland and the Bay Area. Please welcome head coach Steve Kerr. Welcome, Coach Kerr. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on last night's opening night victory.
Thank you.
Sorry if there's any Thunder fans here, but
you guys know that we literally practice upstairs and down the hall?
Yeah, you probably don't appreciate that over the last couple of days while we were down here verging, that Steph and KD and Andre and everybody else upstairs were doing their thing, getting ready for last night and tomorrow or Friday night in Utah.
Yep.
Anyway, this is a really interesting and challenging time to be a professional athlete in America as it relates to freedom of expression, patriotism, a whole range of other issues. And you've been pretty outspoken on all of that. You've called the NFL rule, what's the quote? Oh, idiotic. And talk a little bit about how you see this time.
I think it's a difficult time to be a human being. It is. It's a strange time for a number of reasons. And you know, this could go on for days, this conversation. But I think where we are right now in the world, you look at over the last 20 years, and whether you want to talk about 9/11 or the real estate financial collapse of 07, 08, the impact that has had on our country, combined with social media, we have this weird existence now where everybody is just sort of yelling at each other and fearful and dividing and conquering. And now we have a president who just tries to divide daily and turn it into a one side versus the other. And so as an athlete, as a coach, as a public figure, these days you're sort of thrust into the middle of that, and you can either accept that or you can say no thanks. And I find it's important to accept it and embrace it and discuss it, because I think we have a lot of problems that we need to fix in this country. Not that we're going to single-handedly fix things, but at least we can join the discussion and maybe make people think.
Do you get pushback from fans, other players, anyone else?
I get a lot of support, actually. It's good to live in the Bay Area. I think people here are generally very open-minded. I think the players in the league, I think we all are very supportive of the NBA's leadership. And the NBA has always been really good about social commitment, charitable commitment, commitment to the community, doing good things. And our leadership, led by Adam Silver, our commissioner, has been very supportive of our frank discussion publicly. And so the NBA is a very healthy place to be able to communicate and speak your mind.
But you're traveling all over the country, and you're going to,
right.
You were in Oklahoma, or no, they were here, but you'll be in Utah
right.
in a couple nights, and you'll be all over the place. And there are some areas that may not be as friendly to that kind of message, certainly as the Bay Area, California. Do you get people, and I know you've actually been hassled, at least in some areas, a bit?
Honestly, if I am, it doesn't show up on a daily basis. Maybe somebody writes something. I don't know that I've ever had anybody, say anything to me, yell at me, anything like that. There haven't been any incidents. I think the biggest thing is trying to express an opinion that's pro-human, not conservative or liberal. It's just pro-human. I think that's what the message that we're all trying to get out there is, including my players and people around the league. Unfortunately, things have turned into sort of one side versus the other, and you end up being sort of pigeonholed into one side. But this is really more about your commitment to humanity, your commitment to your fellow man, and those are the things we're sort of expressing our views about.
You talked about community service as being, I don't know if you said the highest form of patriotism, but you equated community service with patriotism. And of course, the NFL and the Warriors, like I think probably most professional sports teams, are involved in the community and a certain amount of philanthropy. But talk a little bit more, what was behind that?
Well, I think the NFL thing really bothered me. You know, peaceful resistance is what we're built upon. And, you know, you think back to the 60s, to the civil rights movement, there was a large group of African-American athletes who peacefully protested. And that led to some really positive changes in our country and our world. At the time, they were not very popular, those athletes. Muhammad Ali was vilified. You know, now everybody says, oh, he was a great American. You know, back then, you know, we were ready to send him to prison for not going to Vietnam.
Tommy Jones in the '68 Olympics.
John Carlos. And then, you know, you had Lou Alcindor, who became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown. You had a lot of athletes who were really pushing for civil rights, but it was not popular at the time. So when you have somebody like Colin Kaepernick, Malcolm Jenkins with the Eagles comes to mind immediately, take a knee during the anthem and say, this is what I am protesting, right? Inhumanity. I'm protesting racial inequities and violence. And then they back that up by donating money and time to charitable causes. And we're going to push back against that. And then we're going to wave the flag. People need to remember what the flag is about. And that really bothered me. And I felt like the flag was just being used as a political tool. Okay. And that the NFL was right in the middle of all that with their handling of it. And that really bothered me. I follow these guys. Malcolm Jenkins is one of the leading figures in our country for prison reform. I think he plays safety for the Philadelphia Eagles. And he's lobbied Congress. I mean, he's doing so much good for this country and for his fellow man. And so we're going to create an issue about whether somebody's taking a knee, or are we going to talk about what actually the issue is? And then the bigger principle, the bigger idea of peaceful protest. Come on. Yeah. It's America. So that bothered me, and that's why I spoke out. Thank you.
In this room are hundreds of leaders, some corporate, some government, some academia, NGO, entrepreneurs, and hundreds, thousands more watching this on the live stream. What have you learned?
Now I'm nervous all of a sudden.
Yeah, right, because you've never been before thousands of people. What have you learned about leadership that you could share with them that's maybe come out of this experience? Or I know you have a lot to say about leadership in general, so I don't want to limit it to that. But what, particularly at this time in this current climate, what have you learned about being a leader?
I'm not sure if this climate has changed my views on leadership. Just being a basketball coach in general, I think about collaboration. I think about leadership being about collaboration, empowering people. I think the key as an NBA coach, the players need to know that I understand what I'm talking about, but they also need to know that I care about them and I care about their opinions. And so just trying to reconcile all that stuff into a daily routine and building momentum as the season goes. And that's built through tons of conversations individually and with the team, and how we deal with adversity, but setting a tone right from the beginning that your opinion matters. Everybody's opinion matters. But collectively, this is what we're trying to do, and here's how we're going to get there. That's what coaching is about for me.
You must get a lot of opinions that are probably not all, as they say, on the same page about what you should be doing around a specific issue or as a coach in general?
A little bit. But generally, you know, basketball's not that complex. You know, it's so the opinions within the team. Generally, the veteran players will speak up. The young guys don't say much. They're just happy to be there. But generating conversation is key because the players need to communicate with each other on and off the floor. And it's a lot easier for them to get on each other and urge each other to do something better if they know each other. And it's a good lesson I learned from Phil Jackson when I played for the Bulls in Chicago. He really encouraged players to communicate. And one of the ways he did that was we met every day before practice in a room. And usually we watched a little video, strategic stuff, but it wasn't even about the video. It was about just the communal gathering. And even before the video starts, before the strategy starts, guys gathering in one room, talking, that helps build relationships. It helps build the team's momentum. And so that's what we try to do. We have a lot of team functions, but pretty casual stuff. We just want them to get to know each other and to really be able to enjoy working together.
And they seem to do that very
They
well.
do.
You were born in Beirut and spent some of your early years in Beirut and Cairo. Your father was a university president. Did that shape your world in any way? There was a lot of conflict, obviously. How did that shape you?
Yeah, it did. I was very lucky to spend a lot of time overseas growing up. I was born in Beirut, but left when I was about 2 years old. My dad was a professor of Middle East politics, and he took a job at UCLA in the political science department. So when I was 2, we moved to LA, and then he would take sabbaticals. So I spent about 3 years in Cairo, Egypt, when I was in junior high, going to an American international school. I spent a year in France. And since my mom and dad were both so heavily invested in international relations, I got a good lesson at home every night at the dinner table about what was happening around the world. And so it did affect, I think traveling in general is it's the best education there is, but particularly when you can live somewhere in somebody else's culture, in someone else's world, that's when you really learn. And I think that helped me understand the world a little bit, but maybe build some compassion and empathy and some awareness that, we're all basically the same. We just live in different areas and, we all want the same thing.
Yeah, I know, and yet we still seem to argue a lot about what it is and how to get there.
It's the history of the world, though, right?
It is. It also, in the Middle East, I think you were witness to either if you were there, you were certain whether or not you were there in person, like during the Camp David Accords, and you had those were important times for you.
Yeah. I remember the day that Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat and Jimmy Carter shook hands. I was probably about 12 years old or 13 years old, and I remember I got home. My dad was so excited, and I'm thinking, did the Dodgers win?
Almost as good as that.
Yeah, almost as good as that. We got Middle East peace, and so I remember those moments and why it was so important to my dad, because that was what he was committed to, was creating awareness with his students and with his colleagues of what was happening in the world geopolitically, but also because he grew up in Beirut, he was very interested in what was going on specifically in that area of the Middle East.
Yeah. So, to wrap up here, but your assistant coach, Bruce Frazier, who's, I think you've been friends for a long time, you played together at the University of Arizona, said, Steve would honestly be an incredible president for our country. He would be better at that than as a coach, and he's a great coach. So,
to be fair, he may be comparing me to the current guy. And by those standards, we're all qualified to be president. So, sorry. I couldn't resist.
Nobody here seems to like that statement. So, no, but so maybe not president, and maybe current low bar notwithstanding. There is something compelling about somebody who has shown such leadership, been so outspoken on social and political issues. Not necessarily president, but maybe is there
vice president maybe?
I'd vote for you, but is that something you would ever consider? You're 53, I think, or something like that.
I'm 53. I love coaching, and it's so much fun. And It's what I do. It's what I've always enjoyed. I grew up playing every sport and watching every sport on TV. I mean, it's just in my blood, and I love coaching the Warriors. I love living in the Bay Area. This is what I plan on doing for a long time, and I don't really have any political qualifications.
That doesn't seem to be a barrier.
It's not a barrier. You're right. But I appreciate the thought. But I think the important way to look at it is that we all are important in our own world, and we're all responsible for creating an aura and an atmosphere in our world. And the more people who can understand others, and more compassion, more empathy for others, every one of us is a leader. Some of us, like me, have a microphone stuck in front of my face twice a day and have maybe a bigger platform. But I find that whether it's Steph Curry or the 15th player on the team, every guy is responsible for leadership by playing his role, working hard at his role, and being a part of the group. And it's really not that different from being a member of a community.
So I'm going to take that as I'm not yet ready to commit till after the midterms.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, Coach Kerr, I can't thank you enough for being here, but most important, thank you for the inspiration and the leadership that you and Steph and Andre and KD and all those wonderful guys up there, sounds like it's biblical almost, but bring, but really for being leaders on and off the court. Please join me in thanking Coach Steve Kerr.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.